Welcome, and thank you for joining us this evening at Let's Luau. Let's start by acknowledging the land where Women's Habitat of Etobicoke operates. As we gather here today, we would like to acknowledge the traditional territories on which Women's Habitat sits. The sacred land on which we stand has been a site of human activity for 15,000 years. This land is the territory of the Mississauga of the New Credit First Nation, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Wendat, and Huron Indigenous peoples, the original nations of this land who continue to work for justice. The territory was the subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy and the Ojibwe and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Today, Toronto is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work in the community on this territory. We wish to express gratitude to Mother Earth and for the resources we are using, and honor all the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who have been living on the land since time immemorial. We seek to live in peace and with respect, and are mindful of the broken covenants and stolen land and the need to strive to make right with our relations. What a year we've had. This event would not be possible without the support of our event task force members. Our volunteer planning committee really had to think differently this year, transforming an in-person event at the Old Mill into our first virtual event. On behalf of Women's Habitat of Etobicoke, I would like to recognize the contributions of the late Karen Scoville. Karen was a very active member of our task force, and we wish to express our deepest condolences to her family and to say how much she is missed. I would also like to thank our dedicated volunteers. Thank you for donating your time and your efforts to support us. We also like to recognize our presenting sponsor, Linda Tickens, and our platinum sponsor, Moneris. We often hear at events the expression, no expense was spared to bring you this event. But in our case, it's the opposite. No expense was incurred to bring you this experience. Everything for tonight was either donated, financed by sponsors, or built by volunteer hands. This means that 100% of every dollar you spend tonight goes directly to helping our clients, 100%. Tonight, we honor the strength of our shelter residents and our outreach services clients. We celebrate their courage and their stories of resilience. Women's Habitat is a multi-service organization. We are committed to providing our clients the supports they need to rebuild from the trauma they've endured. 41 years ago, we opened our emergency shelter at a time when violence against women was an unspoken and accepted act. Today, our shelter continues to offer life-saving support. Our outreach services provide clients with trauma-informed counseling, advocacy, and referral to much-needed support, such as housing, legal, parenting, and child resources, to name a few, as well as leadership programs for girls and for boys. Our staff team works diligently to offer best practice programs and services that are informed by the women we serve, and our board of directors devotes their time, knowledge, and skills to map our future and seek innovative solutions to address systemic barriers. Tonight, we honor their commitment and their dedication. Please visit our website and other social media platforms to learn more about the work that we do. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our host for the evening, Ola Sturek.
Aloha and welcome to Women's Habitat of Etobicoke's Let's Luau event. Although we can't be together in person, we have an exciting virtual event for you this evening. My name is Ola Sturek and I am honored to be your host for this event. Now let me tell you what we have in store for you today. If you haven't experienced a Women's Habitat fundraising event before, you are in for a treat. In past events, we've been to Paris, Tuscany, and Rio, and this time, we've invited you to Luau in Hawaii. And in keeping with our event traditions, we will immerse ourselves in all things Hawaii. We will hear from Shar San Pedro, a native Hawaiian and longtime supporter who will share some Hawaiian philosophies. We'll also hear from a Women's Habitat client about the impact it has had on her life, some thoughts shared by some of our staff teams, a message from one of our youngest supporters as he shares how we can all make a difference, and from the volunteers who support in addressing food insecurity brought on by the pandemic. One of those volunteers, Chef Janelle, will be showing us how to use Spam to make delicious food, and you'll learn how to make a traditional tiki cocktail with Bacardi. And it would not be a party if we didn't have entertainment, so we will be treated with a little Hawaiian music along the way. But let me tell you how you can make a difference. For tonight's auction, make sure you are properly registered through the link on the G landing page. You won't be able to bid in the auction or donate without registering, so that is your first stop. Next, you'll want to take some time to browse over 200 items in the auction, including our Aloha big ticket items. You can scroll through items, categories, or search for anything of interest. There's something for everyone, so please be sure to explore a little. On your My Bid screen, you'll be able to track your current bids, where you may have been outbid, and any other donations. And lastly, on the Make a Donation link, you can support with a financial donation of any amount you choose, for which you can opt to receive a tax receipt. And if you get stuck, try the Frequently Asked Questions tab for more information. And don't forget, the auction closes tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, except the big ticket items, which close tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. And to make sure you don't miss a thing in our show, we suggest browsing the auction on another device if you can, and make the most of your time with us tonight. It's your generous bidding and donations that help ensure Women's Habitat can continue to provide essential services and programs. So we thank you so much for joining us tonight and participating in this important event. Now let's get to that luau, and to start us off, here's Shar San Pedro.
Aloha, my name is Shar. Pehea oi means how are you? Thank you for taking the time to learn about the Hawaiian culture today. The Hawaiian culture is really all about family, profound reverence, and a deep shared sense of we and us. It's filled with beautiful rituals, customs, traditions, music, and most importantly, values like love and strength. And I want to share a few words in the Hawaiian language that are commonly known, but are also really rich in meaning. So the first word is ohana. Ohana. Ohana means family. And family can be anyone. You know, in the Western world, we are taught that family is only your blood relatives. But with ohana, they can be your friends, co-workers, extended family members, your neighbors. And in that family unit, every person is bound to each other by compassion, love, joy, support, commitment, and friendship. Ohana teaches us that we must all work together for each other, that we are not separate from the people who may live next to us or the women and families and survivors at Women's Habitat. The second word that I want to share with you that I love, it's so beautiful, it is mana. M-A-N-A. Mana means life force, or the spiritual energy of strength. I have mana, you have mana. It is innate and intrinsic, and it does not discriminate, meaning that everybody has the power to cultivate their own mana. Women's empowerment is a contemporary form of mana. When we encourage women to use their voice, when we hear their stories and their experiences, and when we motivate others to listen to those stories, we help cultivate and foster their mana and their sense of inner power.
Thank you, Shar, for sharing such great values in some of the Hawaiian way of life. I love how she spoke to Ohana, and it makes me think of the importance of this family we are all a part of tonight, how we are bound by compassion and love and friendship and can all work together for the community. And what could be more fun than to support by shopping? Have you had a chance to check out some of the items? Please do not miss out on some of the big ticket items. Take a look at the rental for an exclusive villa in Costa Rica, or the curated wine packages. We have a gorgeous wrap bracelet, a beautiful oil painting, autographed hockey memorabilia, and even some quality time with Jerry Howard, the voice of the Blue Jays for over 25 years. The motto Shar talked about, the power we have, can make a difference. And that difference is felt by every woman and child touched by the shelter and outreach programs at Women's Habitat. Women like our next speaker, Amanda.
5 months pregnant, that day I exchanged my vows with, at the time, the man I thought loved me. The man that beat me and nearly killed me. This man now has a restraining order not only on me, but on my 2 children. I truly thought I was living through some crazy dream that one day would disappear. The abuse, mentally, verbally, emotionally, and physically, went on for approximately 4 years. It was a living hell. I would go to work. He was too good to work. When I would come home from work, I would take a huge breath at the front door before I walk in, because I never knew what was going to happen. As time progressed, it got worse, and he began to blame me for everything. I was later informed about abusers and how they like to manipulate people, and he was the master of manipulation. He was so good at it that he made me believe that nobody would ever listen to me or believe what I had to say. I, Amanda, have a BA, a post-grad certificate, and have just completed even more schooling. I just can't believe that I listened to a deadbeat with no job and would take all the money that I had. The night I will never forget. Now, 7 years later, I have no problem speaking about it. I almost lost my life at the hands of my abuser. I could just see all the anger in his eyes. I'm not quite sure who was watching out for me and didn't allow him to throw me over that balcony. Once it all stopped, I had to call the police for my safety and for my children's safety. I was so embarrassed. I told him I won't go to the shelter. 6 months later, I called Women's Habitat. They welcomed not only me, but my children with open arms. Such a wonderful feeling. I don't know, I truly don't know what Women's Habitat does here, and I don't know what the counselors do here, but man, they have one talent, they have one joy here, and one passion, and I thank them for it. I truly do. If I could get one word across to anybody that's watching or listening to me, don't stand for it. Don't let anybody hit you. It's not right. There's places to go. There's people that can help you. I've learned so much here. And I don't think I'll ever stop learning here. I thank this place so much. I would like to thank my kids, my common law partner, my cousin, my parents, and my counselors. My counselors for everything they've done. They're always there to answer that phone, and they're always there to listen. And thank you guys for listening to me. So now this is me, and I'm a new person, and I am so proud of myself. I can tell you that I've met a new person. I've met somebody, and he knows the rules, and he knows to find that door if he even tries, because I won't stand for it. Even at my work, they won't stand. They know I won't stand for it either. And why am I not afraid? Because of this place. I came in here thinking like this. This is what happened. I came in here thinking like this. I had blinders on my eyes. I didn't want to listen to you. Not at all. I didn't want to hear what you had to tell me. Sometimes I'll listen. Sometimes. Only when I want to listen. Oh, well, that's interesting. Maybe I'll listen some more. I removed all blinders and a new perspective. Whoa, this is amazing. Life's awesome. This is an amazing life. Don't let other people disrespect you. And whoa, we can have a lot of fun here. We can have so much fun.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for sharing your story. And we feel so honored to have been part of your journey as we watched you and your children regain your lives. My name is Carla Neto, and I'm the Community Programs Manager here at Women's Habitat of Etobicoke. So unfortunately, stories like Amanda's are common. Although violence impacts women differently, the one constant we see is the devastating effects abuse and trauma have on the client's livelihoods. That is why we count on your support so that we can continue to provide these life-changing supports and services to the women and children we serve. Please donate by accessing the Make a Donation option on the left side of your screen. So this year, we thought it would be appropriate to invite our staff teams to share with you the impacts COVID-19 has had on the lives of the people we serve, as well as the way we work.
I am a trauma counselor at the shelter. I've been with the full-time team for about 1.5 years now.
Currently doing a 1-year contract.
I've been there for 4 years, for around 4.5 years now.
I've been with Women's Habitat for 10 years. I'm working about here at Women's Habitat in 14 years.
My 30-year anniversary.
You know, like before the pandemic, they didn't have that much support as it is. And even with the little support they had, they're not allowed to access it.
So then not having that 24/7 support, I think even just the peace of mind that knowing that someone is there.
When we are not able to build that rapport and connection, you know, within the first month, within the first couple of weeks, it's really impacts how we work with individuals moving forward and providing them with resources and empowerment.
So women who come from abusive households have lived with a lot of restrictions. And so from this pandemic, we're placing restrictions on them.
Not really having that much of a say for the women, because it's more of us deciding and
being told that they have to stay in one area, in one room.
I had 3 children in 4 years, and I really identify the women being stuck in a room with their children. Under normal circumstances, it's difficult and challenging. And I find that with this pandemic, it has upped the ante 1,000%. Can you imagine yourself in one room with your children? Okay? Your children.
When people are first coming from where they're coming from into the shelter space, they have to quarantine.
They've left one place of isolation, they're coming into another place of isolation.
I think rapport and connection have been one of the more difficult to obtain.
Before, those relationships were more like natural, like you'd see them in the common areas, you'd be forming rapport and stuff like that.
She said, I need a hug, and I couldn't give her a hug.
Because we don't have that, connection piece. We're not joking and laughing in common areas.
Before, they could at least go out during the day, or the kids would go off to school. But right now, it's like they can't even go in the common spaces if somebody else is in the common space.
The kids has a different level of stress. They don't play with kids around. They don't go outside and take this all energy out.
Even taking a walk with a resident, we can't do that any longer either.
So they're feeling the stress of all the stuff they have to deal with because of the abuse, plus the stress they have to deal with because of the pandemic. So there's that added thing, plus trying to figure out how not to burn out.
Be a mother, being a teacher as well, or this time of the pandemic is hard for them.
Just being mindful that everybody is sort of living in a low-level crisis right now, that the world is kind of in a low-level crisis, and not bringing that into the shelter space with us.
Before, we were only single shifted at night. Now we're single shifted during the day.
Before, we were able to work together and you have a team to bounce off ideas off of.
We would be able to brainstorm, work with residents on certain things.
It's different when you have a student and you have your coworker, right, who are seeing the same situation as you see, right, to solve some problems or see different perspective, or the things that you are seeing, I think, is different.
We all have fantastic, amazing ideas, and to be able to, just turn around and your coworkers sit there and say hey, what do you think about this with this housing provider? Or, hey, what do you think about this? Not having that connection, I find has definitely changed the dynamics of the way we work as a team.
You had someone that was coming in midday to kind of relieve a little bit of that, and even for just taking a break, something as simple as that.
We don't really have a real break.
Even time for myself to eat.
I feel in my gut that a lot of women are swallowing this stress.
The frustrations of the whole school system and doing school virtually is hard on these girls.
The pandemic has impact the kids in the socializing piece. Even the kids that are going to school, they are not able to socialize as they used to socialize.
Most clients don't have access to technology, and the ones who have access to technology, they don't know how to use it.
They have to become tech savvy to support your kids at home with the virtual schooling.
One girl was just saying to me, the teacher wants them to do a science experiment and get all the ingredients themselves. She's like, I don't got money for that. How do I then get to the store? And does that mean if I don't do it, am I going to fail?
Loss of job and income due to the pandemic was created a huge challenge for a lot of women to pay their rents.
They continue to express a feeling of feeling overwhelmed.
Going to the parents, the caregiver, they are dealing with their own stress, and they're dealing with the kids' stress of being home.
What's affecting them is the isolation.
There's so many other women going through the similar situation that they're going through.
When are you going to reopen? When are we going to start having drop-in again?
When are you guys going to be open? Can I come to a teen drop-in and cook together? When can we have girl space? So they're missing all those social supports, that sense of connectedness that they used to have, and they're struggling.
They miss the in-person, especially when they're in crisis.
Most of them, and usually ask, when are we going back to the office? Because they need to talk.
The increase in the abuse that is happening now because the partners are home, the frustration and the fear.
When they're ready to leave, they're told that, and to go into a shelter, they're told that they have to go to a hotel. And to leave the home that the kids are used to go to a hotel and stay for 2 weeks and then transition again into a shelter, it's a huge impact, not only for the woman, but also for the kids.
I wish we can connect better with the women.
They are feeling very lost and isolated.
The loss of personal touch with the support circles put them in further isolation, especially those who were already impacted by violence and those who are dealing with trauma already.
Just not having the opportunity to walk in when you're in crisis is a huge challenge for clients.
Because you're not seeing them in person, that it takes a lot longer to develop that level of trust with them.
Not meeting clients personally or physically creates a trust issue.
It's very difficult to connect with the women because when we were with them in the office, you can read the body language.
I'm not able to accompany clients to appointments that, when they need accompaniment.
And just that ability to not being able to connect, like to go to attend a funeral, to grieve in ways that they have done before.
Isolation was the hugest part, and also having the abusers around the clients.
The main problem that the women face, the women that we work with, is the privacy.
They don't have the privacy. The children might be there, the partner, they may locked away in their room.
Privacy is a big thing because they don't have a space for their own to speak with me.
Most of them have very little spaces. Some of them live in a one-bedroom apartment that they share with abusers and children. And they don't have privacy to talk about their problem and concern and trauma that they are going through.
So many times clients during our conversation had to just turn off their phones or just step out of the home, and that created another scene or another situation for them to be faced with physical or verbal abuse by the abuser.
Because of the distancing, it's difficult to get help, even from some of the agencies.
The challenges to access safe and affordable housing become even greater during the lockdown, especially for those women who were living with the abusers around them.
You're not able to get immediate contact with someone on the other end.
Working from home created an unclear line between our work and personal life.
Working from home and living in the same space, for me, has escalated my stress level.
How do you take care of yourself first? Because if you're not good for yourself, like how can you be good to anyone else? So we have to just practice that.
Thank you again to Amanda and to all our hard-working staff teams. We hope you've started exploring and bidding in the auction, as that support means the world and makes all the difference to our teams and clients. And to give you a chance to check out a little bit more, maybe see the status of your current bids, and hopefully find something special, we're going to take a quick intermission in our show. We'll see you back here in about 10 minutes for some cooking, some cocktails, and client stories.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you're all having a wonderful time at Let's Luau. Fun fact, did you know that in Hawaii, there is more rainbows than anywhere else in the whole entire world? And they even have it on their license plates.
Well, it beats open for business, am I right?
You are right.
Hey, we have a rainbow joke. How much does a rainbow weigh? Nothing, but it's pretty light. Get it?
That's a great rainbow joke. And you know what? The Good Times Girls have also prepared a rainbow song for your listening and pleasure. Enjoy.
2, 3, 4.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue. In the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I wish upon a star and wake up with the clouds are far behind me. Where troubles drops like lightning drops and way above they tiny tops, that's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, where birds fly over the rainbow. Why can't I?
Welcome back. I hope you've had a chance to take a quick break, explore your options here tonight, and provide that all-important support to the Women's Habitat resources and programming. One of the big needs from that support in the wake of the pandemic is food security. The demand has been huge this past year, and many of our volunteers stepped up to respond. Very much in the spirit of Ohana, volunteers like Chef Janelle believe we all have a responsibility to each other. So with that in mind, she's part of this event tonight to share some of that story and perspective, along with some Hawaiian cuisine. Please welcome Chef Janelle.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for the introduction, Ola. My name is Janelle Brind, and I'm a volunteer here at Women's Habitat. Today, this is an absolute pleasure to be back working in this kitchen. I joined Women's Habitat about 1 year ago. I initially, when I joined, I helped out in the kitchen and I helped out organizing the drop-offs, which eventually evolved into me helping out in the kitchen. And I started a cooking initiative for the clientele. It's been an incredible year, and it's been incredible to be able to give back as part of Women's Habitat. Today we are going to be cooking with a Hawaiian delicacy, we'll call it, which is the Spam. It was first introduced in World War II because it was very hard to get fresh meat to the troops on the front lines. So eventually this evolved into Spam becoming very much part of the Hawaiian culture, and this is a staple now in most Hawaiian kitchens. So today we're going to be trying the Hawaiian musubi and a Hawaiian pineapple tacos with some Spam. Okay, stay tuned as we go through the cooking process. So you're going to start by opening your can of Spam and peeling the lid back and pouring this out onto your cutting board. So now that we have the Spam in the pan, the slices of Spam, and we've cooked this on about medium heat until we get a nice golden crispy brown on every side, we're going to start to add in our red peppers and our grilled pineapple. Just remove the Spam from the heat, from the burner, and we're going to start adding this into our taco shells here. Next one we're making is the Hawaiian musabi. And this is a very traditional food. So what we did ahead of time was we prepped some sushi rice, okay, and which is very sticky. And what we're going to do is lay that flat over some banana leaf paper. The spam that's been marinated in a soy sauce and sugar mixture, and that's been marinating for about 30 minutes. So we're going to take these slices and put them into our pan. Now that we have a nice crispy brown on both sides, we're going to take this off the heat and we're going to place on top of that sushi rice. The next step is going to be the 1-inch slices of nori, so which is seaweed. So what you're going to do is place that on your cutting board, and with a spatula and very carefully, you are going to slide your rice mold with the spam right to the middle there. And I have a little cup of water here. So what you do is you fold over the seaweed and just dab a finger. You're just going to get them slightly wet, and then fold over the second half. To the ladies at Women's Habitat and Ola, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be back in this kitchen. This truly was a blessing to be in here again today. It really warms my heart, and it really opened my eyes to the Hawaiian culture, cuisine, and took me out of my element, I must say. I now have 2 more items that I can add to my roster when I'm in my kitchen. Thank you again, and have a blessed day. Aloha.
Here in the kitchen at the Outreach Center. Before COVID, this room and the one next door were always full of women enjoying the outreach programs. And of course, they always included food. But the women really also enjoyed to sit down together, to make new friends, and to find they weren't alone on their journey. Then COVID hit, and everything had to stop.
The counselors heard from clients that they felt isolated, that they missed the outreach programs and the meals. Many were losing their jobs and were concerned about how they would feed their families. We needed to figure out a way to help get food to them. The community was eager to help, and donations started arriving. But the real challenge was figuring out how to handle the influx.
Sometimes donations arrived by the skid load, but most of the time they came as mixed groceries collected by local businesses, churches, and many friends of Women's Habitat. We had neighbors dropping off tomatoes from their garden, chefs like Janelle preparing meals, companies like Dolan Meats supplying fresh produce and frozen meat, and of course the local Rotarians bringing cooked meals.
We needed to transform this outreach center into a food distribution center that could handle receiving, sorting, packing, and delivery to our clients. It took some creativity, but let me show you what we did. This was a counseling room where clients met privately with their counselor. Now it's our receiving dock.
Our kitchen morphed into our grocery store, where donations were sorted by commodity. All the beans went here, the soup went over there. But unlike the grocery stores, we weren't open. None of our clients were allowed in to shop, so Bud and I had to be their personal shoppers.
Volunteers called our clients to get family information, like number of kids, their ages, any allergies or diet restrictions, and any special items they may need. So after a year, we feel like we know these women, although we have never met any of them.
Now we're ready to shop for our clients. To tackle our next logistics hurdle, we turned our chair storage caddies into shopping carts. Grocery bags are filled and labeled by client and wheeled into our shipping area, previously known as the program room. Delivery routes are planned, and we assign one table to each volunteer driver and load that driver's client list onto her table.
We assemble and add toiletry kits, diapers, baby wipes, and household supplies like laundry soap or toilet paper, whatever the client needs. Then fresh produce, frozen meat, home-cooked meals, baked goods, and always a treat for the kids. On delivery day, our drivers arrive in 30-minute intervals. We load up their vehicles and off they go.
Bud and I are often asked, why are you doing all of this? For us, the answer is simple. No one in our country should go without food. And we want to do our part to make this happen for these women. But the real deciding moment for me was when one of our clients said, my boys aren't picky. They're happy if they have a can of beans for dinner. Wow, that was it for me. I was all in, and I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you, Chef Janelle, Bud, and Sue. Now, if you felt inspired by all of that effort, you can check out some amazing kitchenware in our auction items. So you can cook some of your own treats and support our food programs at the same time. And don't forget those big ticket items, like the chance to make those tacos from a Costa Rican villa. And you may have also noticed the NutriBullet and the KitchenAid blender in our auction, great to create your favorite drinks. Here to teach us which one might pair best with our Spam tacos is National Bacardi Portfolio Ambassador Chris Bahamondes.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Luau, this year's silent auction benefiting the Women's Habitat. My name is Chris Bahamondes, and I'm the Senior Portfolio Ambassador for Bacardi in Canada. Today I'm going to mix up for you a delicious tropical cocktail that has me feeling all sorts of tropical feelings as we start to see the sun, peeking more into all of our lives. Now that I've got my glass getting cold and ready for the cocktail, it's time to start the cocktail. So I'll grab my rum, as I mentioned, Bacardi 4, aged a minimum 4 years in the Caribbean, and it's got beautiful flavors of caramel, but still bright flavors, orange zest, a bit of honey to it. I'll do 1.5 ounces into my cocktail shaker here. Next thing I'm going to do is add my pineapple juice. So I'm going to do 1.5 ounces, just like I put 1.5 ounces of the rum into the shaker. And then from there, I'm going to be grabbing my lime juice, right? Now that lime juice is going to add that refreshing acidity to the cocktail, that moment that when you take a taste and you go, because it's so refreshing. That's that acidic backbone. So we're going to go ahead and add 3/4 of an ounce, 0.75 ounces, right, into our shaker here. Finally, the sweetener that we need to balance out that lime juice, that acidity, right? So some honey syrup. I've taken honey and just mixed it 2 parts honey to 1 part water, and that'll be the sweetness that goes into this cocktail. So I'm adding 1/2 ounce of honey syrup into my shaker. And then we cannot forget in the pina colada, the coconut, right? The coconut is what adds that incredible texture and tropical flavor to any cocktail. I've got some beautiful coconut cream here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and spoon in, 1 heaping kind of spoon of this coconut cream, and it's gonna make this cocktail so delicious. I'm gonna fill the shaker all the way up with ice so I can get my drink as cold as possible. And the purpose of shaking, as I was getting into earlier, is that what you want to do is chill your cocktail, get it really cold. 2, you also want to dilute it. You're actually purposely adding water into the cocktail by shaking it and melting the ice so that the cocktail comes completely into balance. And the last thing you're doing when shaking your cocktail is you're aerating it. You're adding oxygen into the cocktail, which creates texture and makes drinks amazing and the best for drinking. So the most important thing when you shake it is that you need to shake it like you mean it. So shake it. And when my fingers are about to fall off, they're so cold, I know that it's shaken to perfection. All I need to do is get it out of this shaker into the glass over ice. So I'm going to strain it. I've got, a classic Hawthorne strainer here, and as well this little fine strainer here that's catching in all those little, particulates. But whatever you've got to do to get your liquid out of the shaker and into the glass, do it. It must be done so that you can taste this delicious cocktail. There's lots of different amazing ways to garnish a cocktail like this. The first thing I'm going to do is grab some pineapple fronds or pineapple leaves. Now, most people just throw away the top of the cocktail, but it certainly makes a beautiful cocktail garnish. So I'll drop it right in there behind the ice. And then I've got a dehydrated lime wheel as well here that I'm going to toss right on top next to the pineapple fronds. And finally, as I mentioned, garnishes can not only look beautiful like these ones do, but they can add aromatics, flavor. So I've got a grater and some nutmeg. And I'm going to grate some freshly grated nutmeg over the top of this cocktail. It's going to smell so good. It's going to look amazing. I cannot wait to drink it. So that's my take on a pina colada made using Bacardi 4 Añejo 4, one of my favorite rums, aged a minimum 4 years. And I hope that you'll pick up a bottle and mix it with some pineapple juice, coconut cream, honey syrup, and lime juice to make yourself one. Thanks again for coming to this year's silent auction and supporting the Women's Habitat. Salud.
Thank you, Chris. I think we're all starting to feel a little more of that island spirit now. Tonight, we're celebrating the Hawaiian culture and spirit, but the Women's Habitat mission comes from a global concern. With domestic violence on the rise, one of the ways in which support programs can make a difference is in prevention and a focus on investing in the next generation. For example, with the Women's Habitat Real Men program, young men are given a platform to explore unhealthy masculine behaviors and redefine manhood, build confidence, and engage in healthy relationships. Programs like that one, Support a Now Mom, Fund a Meal, and Fill a Fridge, rely 100% on donations to operate. And that's why we're here tonight. Building for a better future has an impact on all of us. And no one understands that better than our next speaker and youngest volunteer, Lincoln.
The first memory of Women's Habitat was when I was 5 years old and helping my grandparents drop off donations. Lena gave me a tour of the head office and I saw the main building and many rooms. But what stood out for me the most was the pantry. That day, there were only a few things in there, and it made me realize that not everyone has food to eat, bed to sleep in, and a place where they can be safe. I told my mom that we needed to do something for those who depended on Women's Habitat. I went out to the supermarket and filled a cart full of food and delivered it the next day. When my birthday came around, I asked my friends to donate to Women's Habitat instead of giving me gifts. In 4th grade, I convinced the school to let me run a backpack project for the kids living in the shelter, and we collected and filled 36 backpacks. I inspired my teacher to go out and buy toiletries for the shelter, and the school jumped on board with the toiletry drive for Women's Habitat. This year in grade 6, I asked my teacher if we could do a Christmas hamper project for Women's Habitat, and my class collected enough food to fill 4 hampers. Last summer, I did 2 neighborhood campaigns for Women's Habitat. I printed out flyers with a request for household items for women moving out of the shelter. We were able to put together 10 big boxes full of items, filling them with plates, cutlery, towels, sheets, and more. Next, I did a neighborhood campaign requesting non-perishable foods. From March to December, I helped make 25 to 40 pasta meals bi-weekly for the families in the outreach program. But when we found out how much the families appreciated our meals that were made with love, it was a great feeling. I encourage everyone to think about those struggling with financial uncertainty, food insecurity, and all the women and children living with violence and abuse. I'm proud that I've helped make the lives of the women and their children in Women's Habitat shelter and outreach program easier, especially during this pandemic. It really is a special feeling when you make someone's day better.
Thank you, Lincoln. You're absolutely right. You're the perfect example that no one is too young to make a difference. Aloha, everyone. My name is Lina Manzan, and I'm the Resource and System Manager. I had the enormous pleasure to work with many of you. I'd like to thank you for being here today and supporting Women's Habitat of Etobicoke. Without your very generous donation, many of our programs couldn't continue to exist. In different occasions, I have had the opportunity to speak with you about how vital your financial contributions are to ensure that we can continue to support our clients in a meaningful way. and that although we receive some core funding, is still not enough to respond to the very complex needs of the women and children we serve. If you have been at our outreach center, you know that those additional supports can take the form of many things, like food, baby needs, clothing, school supplies, and many more. When you donate to Women's Habitat, you become part of the circle of care that works towards saving lives and improving the livelihoods of the clients we serve. Each of us is doing our part to ensure that the women and their children have the opportunity not only to survive but to thrive. Each member of the circle has a specific role and belongs to a very complex network that works in synchrony. We are frontline workers, system managers, volunteers, donors, community supporters, family and friends, and service providers. No one is too young to make a difference. Please consider making a contribution. To say that the pandemic has changed the way we work is an understatement. COVID-19 has changed the way we interact with people, but not really who we are. Last year, we accepted the challenge to engage virtually, and today, here we are. It has been an exciting project, and we thank you so much for being part of it. This event could have not been possible without the support and dedication of many people. I would like to especially thank Elizabeth Short for her incredible commitment to this project. The presentation that you are watching now was possible thanks to her. Every year, the fundraising event is the vision of a group of amazing women, our task force. They are the power behind the event. Thank you so much for all the months of planning and soliciting. Our sponsors, thank you so much for supporting us. To our silent auction donors, thank you for your contributions. Over 200 items, an amazing collection. To our donors, your gift to Women's Habitat will go to the programs and services that we have for the children and for the women and children we serve. Thank you. To the many volunteers that offer their time, those hours of work, we couldn't have done it without you. And to our audience today, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this presentation and for all your support. We hope to see you in person in 2022.
Giving back comes in so many forms. Thank you to all those who have taken part in everything that supports Women's Habitat. Whether you're hosting an event, recruiting your friends, or simply donating or bidding here tonight, it's all part of something greater. Without that support, without the funding, these programs and services would disappear, and a problem that is already growing would only get worse. In order to create that change, the staff, volunteers, and supporters of Women's Habitat work all year round to be creative, resourceful, and create change. A lot of people bring it together. So thank you to Lena and her team as well for all you do and for sharing some time with us tonight. Now, speaking of time, ours is almost up. One final reminder that the auction closes tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, except the big ticket items that close tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. So get those bids in and best of luck. Now, once the auction closes, if you've won any of your bids, you'll receive notifications with details on which items, how to pick them up, and the receipt for your purchase. I want to thank Women's Habitat for having me tonight and for all of you for being part of this, our first virtual fundraising event. Your participation and contributions go a long way in making a difference to our clients and community. There's only one thing left to share.
Aloha. The aloha spirit. And I'm sure many of you know that aloha means hello and goodbye, or nice to see you, or welcome. But really, it is more than the salutation itself. But when you say it to someone else, it is a mutual regard for the other without expecting anything in return. It's sort of like a quiet hymn or beautiful prayer offering that you give to someone when you say that. You know, the aloha spirit really embodies deeply held Hawaiian beliefs and cultural traditions about community, hope, love, peace, spirituality, care, presence, acceptance, humility, truth, all the things that make our human race good and just. The spirit also is the essence of relationships in which each person is important to the collective existence. So when we say that, to someone aloha, we are acknowledging their existence, and we are also saying, you are part of this community and we are all responsible for one another in this way. It really is a way of life. So the next time you meet someone, whether they're someone that you know or someone you don't know, greet them with a full breath of aloha and sit with the realization that you are embracing the other with kindness and mutual regard. And really remember that everyone deserves this level of respect, care, and goodness. And I really feel that if we embody the aloha spirit, that this could be a way for us to move forward in progress and change for the betterment of everybody.